If you're a nurse practitioner, are there days in your work that they just feel hollow and meaningless and you kind of question your career choice? Are there maybe you question whether you have the stamina to keep doing this until retirement? Do you feel like you're so exhausted that and burned out from work that, when you take your time off for vacation and maybe you recently traveled to, let's say, Hawaii, and you enjoyed your time in the sun on the beach, you dipped your toes in the warm, beautiful Pacific Ocean, you had even the little fruity drinks with a little umbrella in it, and when you come back to home, and it's the night before your first day back to work, and you're sadly putting away your bathing suit and your sandals, and you're getting out your scrubs and your sneakers, and you're already feeling a little bit depressed, and you think, I need another vacation. If you feel like you never quite feel rejuvenated from work, no matter how much vacation you take, then you are in the right place because you're going about burnout the wrong way. And today I'm going to show you exactly what you need to do to be in charge of your burnout, to command your burnout in your career as a nurse practitioner. For those of you who are new here, hi, my name is Nicole. I am a rheumatology nurse practitioner, and I help other nurse practitioners find happiness in healthcare and meaningfully connect with their patients in 60 seconds or less. Do you ever feel stuck in life, looking around and wondering if you made the right choice? How did you end up in this place? Do you ever wake up feeling like I'm doing the same thing over and over and over again? I see patients, I get yelled at by patients. I have a million patient messages and my inbox gets triaged and replied to when I'm seeing patients all day and I don't really have time to reply to messages. I have leadership behind my back breathing down my shoulders because I'm not meeting my quality metrics. And, a fourth, maybe a third of the medication I prescribe gets denied and I have to call the insurance companies and do a peer-to-peer. This is not the life I imagined for myself. The choices we make, whether it's big or small, even the little ones, can completely shape our lives. And it could be a big decision, such as deciding to become a nurse practitioner and deciding that's your career, that's the trajectory of your goal. It could be a small decision, like deciding to go out for drinks with your friends on the weekend, and you end up meeting your future partner, your future spouse, and your entire future is changed. Or it could be a decision that doesn't seem like a big deal in the moment. Maybe you decided to not exercise one evening because you are just so tired after work. You don't feel the motivation, you don't feel the energy, you don't feel like doing it. But then skipping an exercise or a workout snowballs into a week, into a month. And then pretty soon you're wondering why you found it so difficult to motivate yourself to exercise and you gain 10 pounds. And I want to talk to you today about a concept called the paradox of choice. The dictionary definition of choice is the act of selecting between two or more possibilities. Choice suggests the opportunity or privilege of choosing freely. And our very country is built on the concept of the freedom of choice. In fact, in 1941, in the very early years before America joined World War II, President Franklin D. Roosevelt gave a speech at the State of the Union address, and that's now famously known as the Four Freedoms: the freedom of speech and expression, the freedom of worship, freedom from want, and the freedom from fear. And the idea of freedom of choice in what we do with our lives, it's such an ingrained concept in the tapestry of our culture and our lives. It seems almost counterintuitive to think the opposite is better, but is it? I had a physician colleague recently tell me, and she confided in me, Nicole, sometimes I wish I was just a simple coffee barista at Starbucks, just serving coffee. And it was such an interesting comment she made to me. She works as a physician. She juggles a marriage, a husband, little kids, a patient panel, practicing medicine. She's even in a leadership position. But what she was communicating is that she's in survival mode. She's in survival mode. There are days that she feels like she's just trying to get by, trying to survive. And when we're in survival mode, we start to reflect back at our lives and all the what if scenarios. What if I picked a different career? What if I picked a different specialty? What if I had been, would I be happier? Would I be as stressed out as I am now? Would I have a happier and better life? And all those reflections, they kind of bring a feeling of regret that your life could be better if you had made a different choice long, long ago. In fact, the dictionary definition of regret is sadness or disappointment over something that has happened or been done, especially a loss or missed opportunity. Just like in medicine, we make the best decision we can at the moment with the information we have at that time. And the truth is, there will always be missed opportunities. There always will be. There is no way for a single human in their entire life to go through every single experience. And studies show that the average human life is about 73 years. And so imagine that you live the average lifespan of 73 years. There is no way to experience all the life experiences a human could experience in 73 years. It is not possible to experience the freedom of life without kids, but also have the joy of having kids. It is not possible to experience the joy of helping other people as a nurse practitioner, but also to experience the joy of freedom of not having patients depending on you. Every time you say yes to one thing, you are saying no to another thing. My colleague dreamt of being a simple barista at a coffee shop. But in truth is that when you make a choice, you trade one known negative for another unknown negative. If my colleague truly decided and she actually went forth and became a coffee barista and gave her a career as a physician, there is a whole reality of negatives that she would have been inviting into her life. And so every choice you make is an opportunity, or sorry, every choice you make has an opportunity cost associated with it. And failing to think about these opportunity costs actually can lead people astray. And the very existence of multiple alternatives makes it easy for us to imagine in our brain that, alternatives that don't actually exist, alternatives that combine only the attractive features of the ones that do exist. For example, my colleague who said she dreamt of being a coffee barista, just a simple coffee barista. She only thought of the positive trade-offs of being a coffee barista. Things like not having to write patient chart notes after each patient visit, things like not needing to call insurance companies to do a peer-to-peer, and all in lieu of standing at a cash register and just bing, easily ringing up customers' coffee and pastry. She didn't think about needing to deal with the morning rush hour, of burning her hands while making coffee, of getting osteoarthritis from the repetitive activities with your hands, of cleaning the tables and mopping the floors every evening, of dragging the garbage out to the dumpster multiple times a day, of standing on her feet all day and the knee pain and the low back pain that she consistently has. All of a sudden, being a coffee barista doesn't look so attractive anymore, right? Studies demonstrate that being forced to confront trade offs in making decisions makes people unhappy and indecisive. But if you're only looking at the negatives, then you don't have to worry about the trade offs with the positives. Let's use another example. Let's use dating as an example because everyone can relate to dating, whether you're single, whether you're married. A good relationship doesn't mean it has to feel good all the time. And from a woman's perspective, at least from my perspective, so maybe you can relate, maybe you can't. From a woman's perspective, we've been fed this notion since childhood that we need to marry someone tall, dark, and handsome, or our Prince Charming. And we should look for our meet cute, which is the concept made up by Hollywood and the entertainment industry that is an encounter between two main characters, which leads to the development of a romantic relationship between the two. And it makes for such a cute, great story. We're fed this notion that a romantic relationship will be perfect and fulfill us in every aspect. But in real life, in reality, If you're in a serious relationship or in a marriage, you know that's not true. Oh heck no. Your partner, your spouse is not perfect. They have flaws. Maybe they pick their nose or they fart in front of you. Maybe they're not the most good looking, like a 10 out of 10, like Brad Pitt or Tom Cruise. Maybe they don't have the curly brown hair or the emerald green eyes that you envisioned in your dream partner. Maybe they have a receding hairline. Maybe they are not a great dancer and they look foolish on the dance floor with you at the last family wedding you attended. Maybe they're not athletic and they don't enjoy the hikes you take on the weekends. Maybe they get angry when they come home for a long, stressful day at work. Shocker, people get impatient and frustrated. And, I'm going to give you a personal example. I'll be honest here. My husband doesn't share my love of romantic comedy movies. I'm a rom-com type of gal through and through. I love romantic comedies. Like he doesn't. He loves action suspense movies. He loves horror movies with gore. And so we're complete opposite tastes in movies. And, he would not go to the theater with me to watch a rom-com. That's just not his thing. Do I hate that we don't have the same tastes, the same interests in movies? Do I hate that I can't tell him running jokes from my favorite movies because he can't understand because he doesn't watch those movies? Before I met my husband, I always envisioned I'd be with someone who had the same exact interests as me, that we could watch the same movies and laugh about the same inside jokes about our favorite movie scenes. And when I was in my dating years, I realized I can't have control over the objective criteria of my partner. I won't necessarily be with someone who's athletic, who's 6'2", who has beautiful emerald green eyes, who has a love for the arts, but also an intelligence for finance and stocks, but also emotionally empathetic and can watch a rom-com with me and cry during the sad scenes, but also has manly and can rescue me when I need rescuing. And every single night is passionate in the bedroom. I mean, let's be honest, that man does not exist but in the movies and in romance novels. Instead, I needed to focus on the subjective criteria in my partner. And for me personally, I wanted a partner who was kind, compassionate, respectful, grounded, mature, stable, and family oriented, who wanted to have kids and start a family. And to me, that is the foundation of a good relationship. Everything else can be built up from that. It's like having a house. You need to have a good, stable foundation. Everything can be built up from that. The quality of choice in my partner is seen through the lens of my subjective experience that choice affords. I read this quote recently and it really resonated. I thought it was perfect. Not every day can be a trip to Disney World. Some days it's a trip to the DMV. Other days, it's like season reruns. Life is what you make of it. My husband and I may not have the same movie interests, but he's compassionate. And so when my mom passed away unexpectedly several years ago, he was there with me during my grief and planning the funeral. My husband may not be super athletic, but he's kind. And I always admire him when he leaves a generous tip at the restaurants. It's my subjective experience of our relationship that colors my view of our relationship and my view of my world, of my reality. And so, we go on vacations to hit reset, to renew ourselves, but also a lot of us use vacations as a form of escape, to escape our work, the hustle and grind, the everyday go, go, go. But expecting our vacation to fix all of our problems is like expecting your spouse to fulfill every physical, emotional, mental, spiritual need you have. It's just unrealistic. A single person cannot meet all your needs. And if you don't believe me, ask that question in the opposite direction. Can you meet all of your partner or spouse's needs physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, I guarantee you, you're going to say no. That's why we have friends. That's why we have our exercise workout group. That's why we have our book club. That's why we have our colleagues at work. We are each multifaceted human beings with multiple needs. And so multiple sources will fulfill those needs. That's why you come home from vacation wondering why you're still burned out, because those are unrealistic expectations of vacation. Vacations do not cure burnout. Vacations do not prevent burnout. More choices can feel like freedom, but it also creates more room for regret. Choice is like standing in front of 50 doors, but you can only walk through one, and you'll always wonder what's behind the other doors. Choice is like scrolling on Netflix for an hour, and you pick a movie, but you feel unsatisfied with what you picked because there are 100 other options. Choice is like, shopping for shoes. The more pairs you try on, the harder it is to feel happy with the ones you bought. Choice is like dating apps. There are so many options that you end up wondering if the next swipe might be better instead of enjoying who's actually in front of you. Choice is like a buffet. The more dishes there are available, the harder it is to enjoy the plate you picked because you keep looking at what you left behind. And the truth is, it's not about picking the right choice. It's about your subjective experience with that choice. When you started listening or watching this episode, did you ask yourself, okay, Nicole, how can I prevent burnout? Tell me how to prevent burnout. That is not the right question. You're asking the wrong question. The real question is, how can I change my subjective experience of my choice? How can I change the subjective experience of my choice? Now you're not running away from your career as a nurse practitioner, from your burnout, looking for a way to temporarily escape. Now you're in command of your burnout. What if you had the power to change your subjective experience of your choice? Or how could you use the information you have now, knowing what you know now about your choice, to your advantage? I was working with a new grad nurse practitioner recently, and she was brand new to practicing. And she said her biggest challenge is time management, of managing seeing patients, writing her notes, in basket, triaging. And she felt like she was constantly juggling 10 balls in the air at once. And I told her, 5 years ago, you would have dreamt for this problem. And her eyes lit up. And she said, yeah, that's right. She realized that was true. When she was in nurse practitioner school 5 years ago, all she dreamt of was passing her boards, getting her license, becoming a nurse practitioner. Well, she got it. But her vision, her dream, it didn't encompass going past becoming a licensed nurse practitioner. Her dream didn't encompass her juggling patients and managing her time and learning time management. Humans are not very good predictors of our own happiness. We have a very short term focus, and we think our desires won't change over time, but they do. And I have a 5-year-old son who just started kindergarten this year. And, 4.5 years ago, my biggest priority was nursing and making sure he was fed. And now my biggest priority is making sure he's not bullied in school and he can learn and he can focus. It's normal for your needs to evolve and change over time. Even as a nurse practitioner, our needs change over time. And you do yourself a disservice by not meeting those ever evolving needs. And so now the question is, how do I change my subjective experience of my choice? And if you want to know, I want you to lean in because I'll tell you the secret right now. You give yourself better experiences. You give yourself better experiences to offset the opportunity costs. Just like when you're in a relationship, you're in a marriage. If you have kids and you're stressed out from and exhausted from them and not the same old routine, trying to wake them up, get them ready for school, it's dinner time, kids are throwing their food, they won't eat, you got to clean up, bedtime routine, just trying to get them to bed so you have a moment to yourself. You schedule weekly date nights with your partner to reconnect. Or if you're on vacation And oh gosh, there's a storm. You're trapped inside. You can't go to the beautiful beach and lay out in the warm sun and dip your toes in the ocean and suntan. What do? You look up fun activities to do indoors to enjoy the rest of your vacation. You give yourself better experiences. And the greatest pleasure that a human can experience is connection. The greatest pleasure a human can experience is connection. Whether you're connecting with your partner, your family on vacation, or your patients at work. There is a reason why when you talk with other nurse practitioners or physician assistants or even physicians who are retired, they will recall specific patients. They'll recall specific patient circumstances. Maybe it was a patient who had morbid obesity, who had diabetes, heart disease, joint problems, skin problems. And slowly, with each and every visit, you were able to help them with exercise, diet, medications to help them lose the weight, become a healthier version of themselves, and over the years in front of your eyes, they become a better parent. They have more energy. They're more excited to be, take care of their kids. They become a better version. They have a better life because of you. They remember these specific patient cases because we are wired for deep connections with other human beings. Which, by the way, if you want to know more about how to meaningfully connect with your patient in 60 seconds or less, I invite you to download my free PDF guide, Own the Patient Conversation. The link is down below. Find out the secret to connecting with your patient and creating a better subjective experience in your choice and in your career as a nurse practitioner. It is so easy to only look at the negatives in your life and think that you're burned out and you made the wrong choice. But you have control over the subjective experience of your choice and of your life. Don't let the circumstances in your life, don't let the circumstances give meaning to your life. Instead, put meaning in the circumstances of your life. I'm going to say that one more time. Don't let your circumstances give meaning to your life. Instead, put meaning in the circumstances of your life. I hope this episode was helpful. If you did find it helpful or you enjoyed it, then you should definitely watch my last video, eight lessons from 8 years as a nurse practitioner. And otherwise, I will see you all in the next episode. And remember, I'm always rooting for you.